Today we're tide pooling at a brand new spot because I want to show you guys that it doesn't really matter where you go, but it just has to meet a few criteria in order for you to be able to find some cool things and have fun. So first, it needs to be a rocky beach, which this whole coastline in Monterey is pretty rocky, so I have high hopes for this spot. You also want to go at a low tide. Today it's about a -0.5, which should be pretty good. It could be lower, but I think we're still going to be able to find some cool things. I see a lot of seagrass out there, which to me is a good sign. Usually I find some cool sea slugs living in the seagrass. So because it's the lowest tide right now, I think we're going to go all the way out to the water's edge. Still being careful and mindful of the waves because you don't want to get injured. But we're going to go all the way out and then we can work our way back in as the tide starts to come back in.
Good thing you got a yellow hat.
Look at these tracks. I'm not good with my birds, but it's probably either a seagull or a pelican.
Good job.
But they're not called seagulls, y'all. One's gonna come for me. I always pick up trash when I see it because honestly I think it gives me good luck for finding cool sea creatures. And a good saying is pick up 3 for the sea. Welcome Nudibranch nerds. Come with me as I explore this new tide pool spot. To find new spots, I usually use Google Maps and zoom into the area of the coastline I'm interested in exploring. You can often tell from the satellite imagery if a spot is rocky or sandy, and if there are any trails that can get you to the beach. Luckily, most of the Monterey Peninsula is rocky intertidal. To check the tides, I use the NOAA website, or the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. This site allows you to put in a specific location and shows you a chart of when and how low the tides are in that area. So let's go tide pooling and see what we can find. Stay 60 feet away from otters. Where else? Ooh. Alright, this is pretty cool. This is a little juvenile purple urchin, and as you can see it has all of these things stuck to it: rocks, coralline algae, seagrass, and it holds on to them with its tube feet, which are little tiny suction cups, and it can use them as protection or camouflage. Oh, a brittle star. I have a brittle star on it. So these two animals are actually related. They're both echinoderms, which means spiny-skinned animals. This is a brittle star, so it's more closely related to a sea star. As you can see, it has 5 arms, but they're more kind of spindly, and they are actually pretty brittle, so you want to be very careful if you're ever handling a brittle star. And sea urchins are also echinoderms. They're more obviously spiny-skinned because, of course, they have all these spines sticking out. But brittle stars are one of my favorite animals to find because they're pretty alien-like when they move around. And this one's so adorable, it's so tiny. I was just looking under this rock crevice in a tide pool and I found one of my all-time favorite sea slugs, the Hopkins Rose Nudibranch. It's bright pink. It looks kind of like a tiny sea anemone, but it is actually a sea slug. And it's pink because it feeds exclusively on a pink encrusting bryozoan, so it gives it this really beautiful, vibrant, hot pink color. Here it is from far away. Pretty easy to spot because of that bright pink color, but it was hiding under a rock, so you know, it is helpful to look under the cracks and crevices to try to find them, because they're not always right out in the open. Sometimes you get lucky and find one, but I've found that they like to hide under rocks. Often when you find one, there are more nearby, and we just found a second Hopkins Rose Nudibranch just a couple feet away from that first one. So this rock is covered in the pink encrusting bryozoan, and right next to it, over here, don't mind the reflection, we found a third Hopkins Rose Nudibranch. That's 4 now, and there's probably way more that we didn't see. But this one is really cool because all the other ones were in cracks and crevices and hiding under rocks. But this one's right out in the open, which I told you, you probably wouldn't usually find that. But we just did. What are the odds? Whoa! Look at it. The word nudibranch means naked gills because the gills on sea slugs are outside of their body. On the Hopkins Rose, you can slightly make out the gill plume, which is the feathery structure in the middle of all of the other spiky structures called serrata. Interestingly, I barely found any Hopkins Rose nudibranchs this time last year, but this year they've been the most abundant species in the tide pools. Near the front of their body, they have two sensory structures called rhinophores that help them find food and are slightly ridged, unlike the smooth serrata. Little areas like this are good. I don't know why. Sorry. Whoa! Dude, it's a flatworm. Oh my god, or what the fuck is that? I've never seen that before. Wow. Oh my god. This is so cool. Oh my god, this is magical.
Damn, that's crazy.
Oh my god, it's totally a flatworm. I've never seen this before. Looks like an alien. If it were a sea slug, it would have a gill plume and rhinophores, but there's no gill plume. And it has two little sensory structures that look like rhinophores, but they're not like ribbed like sea slugs usually are. I'm feeling so good. I just found something I've never seen before. I thought it was a sea slug, just upside down using the surface tension of the water, but it turns out to be a flatworm, which usually are just this dull brown color, but this one is beautiful and magical. Small. After doing some research, I found out this species of flatworm is called the striped polyclad flatworm. It is apparently uncommon and cryptic, and little is known about this species, which makes sense why I had never seen it before. I most commonly find flatworms by gently lifting up small rocks, and those species are very sensitive to light. But this one did not seem to mind the light at all. After all these years of tide pooling, it still amazes me that I can find new things. I call that a success. We found at least 5 Hopkins Rose sea slugs or nudibranchs, a really cool bright green sea anemone, and my favorite thing was a flatworm that I've never seen before. It was absolutely gorgeous. So that is a success, and it's actually encouraged me to try new places as well, because usually I stick to the same places that I know are good, but this just proved me wrong. So go out there, find a new place that's rocky during a low tide, look in the cracks and crevices, and have fun. Thanks for coming along.